thank you for coming to Philadelphia Family Pride's Past Parenthood Workshop. I'm Jadzia Axelrod. I'm the Assistant Director of Philadelphia Family Pride. And this is our first session. We're very excited to have you and to have a nice of be intentional financial, not just be financial intentionally, which is what I was going to tell you.
The vibe is there.
The vibe is great. And thank you so much to Cassie, who set all this up.
Yeah, I'm the summer intern at Philly Family Pride, so I'm with a program called Bridging the Gaps, which is a program for medical professional schools in the Philadelphia region. We get partnered with community programs, and so I'm with Philly Family Pride.
And we're very happy to have you. You've done great work already, and I'm glad that we're starting this workshop and you're working so hard on it. So, without further ado, I'm going to turn the floor over to River to tell us about financial planning.
Thank you. Thanks, Philadelphia Family Pride, for having me as always. Thanks to the folks who made it in person on this ridiculously good. Glad to have you here. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, and then we'll get into the presentation, and then I'm happy to take whatever questions, especially in a small group. I'm happy to talk about whatever. I also tend to be very informal in everything that I do, so I will not be offended if you need to step up at some point or leave early or anything you need to do. We always want to take care of our human bodies before anything else. So, my name is River Nice. My pronouns are they, them. I've been a financial planner since 2018. I hate capitalism, not the thing you expect to hear from a financial planner. But the entire economic model being based on having an owner class and a working class sets us up for oppression. And when it works together with white supremacy and cis heteropatriarchy, it is designed to keep us down and to keep us at odds with each other. So, as I do financial planning, I help people understand how the games are played in the US and then help folks decide how they want to intentionally engage with those games and hopefully start thinking about things a little bit more collectively so that we can be working in a more communal effort to make life better for everyone. Disclaimers for all my workshops: this is not legal advice, this is not tax advice, and this is not personalized financial advice. This is education. My plan for today, I want to run through the range of costs of different ways to build your family. I want to talk about a couple of ways that we can try to reduce those costs, because it is expensive for us. I want to walk through the steps that you can take to make yourself a financial action plan for building your family. And then I want to cover some important financial considerations for once your child is with you. I can't not be the financial planner and I can't be the financial planner and not mention life insurance. So, let's go through some cost ranges. I got all of these numbers from familyequality.org. This was data that they collected in 2019, so I think it's safe to assume that things are a little more expensive now than they were in 2019, as is true of everything else. So, some of the ways that queer people build families, we might adopt from foster care, and here's where I remind you that the goal of foster care is always to reunite the child with their family of origin, but if reunification is not possible or is no longer the goal, then adoption becomes an option on the table. That is generally one of the lowest cost ways to build a family. We also, of course, have domestic adoption and international adoption options, and the workshop on Thursday will go more into those options and what you need to know about that. But cost ranges can vary there and can be pretty expensive, unfortunately. We've also got pregnancy options, of course, for those of us that have that option on the table. A do-it-yourself pregnancy with donor sperm can be a very low cost, as the old-fashioned way that straight people do it. It can cost more depending on your source of sperm and what tools and equipment you need to make things happen. There's also intrauterine insemination, which is just a little bit more of a medical procedure. That's just a step more than the old-fashioned way of doing things. And then there's in vitro fertilization, which is where the egg is removed and then fertilized and then implanted. So that means that the egg donor, the person providing the egg and the person providing the uterus, could either be the same person or two separate people, and you see slightly different range of costs depending on how that's working out. So that can also get pretty expensive. Of course, we can look at surrogacy and gestational carriers as options. Costs there can, of course, get very expensive and can range widely depending on your specific agreement with your specific surrogate or gestational carrier. I also want to remind folks, and I think we're going to have a workshop about legal considerations at some point with Journal Law Group, love them, about establishing legal parentage. What they're going to tell you is that anytime a parent is not biologically related to a child, it is recommended to perform a legal adoption just to make sure that we have those rights on paper and they can't take it away from us. Then of course a lot of us want to look into egg freezing or sperm freezing option, especially those of us that go through hormone replacement therapy. And that can be expensive as well, depending on what your needs are, and including ongoing storage of that organic material. So, all of this to say, it can be expensive for us, unfortunately. One of my many, many complaints about cis-heteropatriarchal capitalism. So we can think about a couple ways that we can try to reduce our costs. But before I do that, can I help?
Yeah, I have a quick question about like the range of costs. It's like a really wide range. Like, would you say it's like more leaning towards like the bottom end or the higher end usually? Or why is it such a
Super depends, yeah. So why is it such a huge range of costs? I mean, like who you are, where you're doing things, what your medical needs are, or like who you're adopting from or where you're adopting from. There's just a lot of variables involved. In adoption, even like which adoption service you work with. In the like pregnancy realm, like which medical provider you work with and what your health insurance covers. There's just so many variables that unfortunately is a very wide range. And there's even been folks that their costs end up outside that range, you know? So it's just highly variable. Appreciate the question though. Okay, so biggest thing, we love free money. We love free money that we don't have to pay back. So I always like to start by looking for any grants that you might at all be able to qualify for. I have a couple resources I'm going to share with you, so feel free to take notes. I'm also happy to share these slides afterwards and with the recording. But familyequality.org is a great resource to start with. They have grants in all of these different categories. So family building grants generally, grants for adoption specifically, fertility preservation grants, some of which are designed for trans people, some of which are designed for people with other medical conditions, fertility medication grants and discount programs for fertility medication, and then as well as discounted services and grants for active duty military and veterans. So if any of those might apply, definitely worth spending an hour on the website to see what you might be able to qualify for. There's also helpusadopt.org. Those are grants specifically to help with the cost of adoption. That website is not LGBTQ specific, but is, at least a lot of them are LGBTQ inclusive. So just heads up before you peruse that website that you might want to double check that it's not a weird Christian group that hates us. BabyQuestFoundation.org is grants to help with family building costs due to infertility. So basically the non-adoption or pregnancy leading routes. Actually, let me pause for another second in case you wanted to write things down. Okay.
So you said family building grants and what was the second one about?
Family building grants and grants for adoption.
Thank you.
And thank you. Do let me know when I'm moving too fast. Do you want me to repeat something? Okay. Anytime that you are pursuing the method that might include medical needs, that might include pregnancy, you want to start by talking to the health insurance provider. If you're in a situation that you can choose between multiple health insurance providers, maybe you and a spouse both have access to health insurance through work, that you could put each other on your work's insurance policy, call each of those policies to see what do you cover. I've got a list of questions for you to ask. But figuring out what you might qualify for, what might be covered, how we can reduce those costs via insurance is definitely the first step when we are going that route. Whenever you do have phone calls with health insurance, and I would actually broaden this to not just fertility, document those phone calls. We know that insurance providers love to pay out as little as possible while collecting as much money as possible, and everyone complains with capitalism being for profit as the highest priority. So document the phone calls, who you're talking to, and exactly what they are promising you. When you are on the phone with your healthcare provider, I recommend asking what exactly is covered in terms of fertility treatment, but also what is excluded. We want to ask the question from both sides to make sure we're getting a clear picture of what we can expect. We can ask, are initial consultations with medical providers and fertility centers covered? And if so, is there a limit to how many consultations can be covered? We want to know if this policy covers diagnostic testing around infertility in case that is a need. We want to know if medication is covered and if that medication needs to be coming from a specific pharmacy or if they specifically need to be generic medications. We want to know if both IUI and IVF are covered. We also want to know if IUI has to be tried until you're allowed to try for IVF, or if there's any kind of waiting period. Because IVF, in vitro fertilization, is one of the more expensive procedures, a lot of insurance providers will make you try the less expensive options first, or make you try it the old-fashioned way for a certain period of time before they'll let you do IVF. And then especially we want to know if there's any caps on the coverage that you're allowed to access. Sometimes there's a limit on the dollar amount that the insurance company is willing to spend on you. Sometimes there's a limit on the number of cycles that they're willing to they cover for your attempts at pregnancy. Sometimes there's even a lifetime limit. So if you're trying over a period of time or trying for more than one child, they might cap you at some point. And we want to know that ahead of time. If we are going the IUI or IVF route, there are a couple ways that we can try to reduce what those costs are after we see what we can get covered by health insurance. So we can talk to multiple fertility centers to compare costs and also to compare your comfort level at the fertility center. See what's going to be working for you there. You can also try negotiating with fertility centers. So something like, well, that's too high of a cost for my family. Is there any other option for me? Do you have any programs for low-income folks? Do you have any programs for LGBTQ folks? Is there any negotiation we could do where I donate some eggs in exchange for some free IVF or discounted IVF? Can I participate in any medical studies in exchange for discounted services? Stuff like that. Ask about payment plans. And then as you are attempting pregnancy, whatever you can do to try to reduce how many rounds you need before the pregnancy takes, you want to, give yourself the best odds medically that you can. A book that's been recommended to me by multiple folks is a book called It Starts With the Egg by Rebecca Fett. So I know that's not the only book out there that we can learn from, but that's a place to start if you don't know where to start. Right, and you can look at the option to donate eggs or embryos in exchange for free or steeply discounted IVF. And then I gotta put it on here, we live in the US and healthcare is expensive here. Medical tourism is a viable option for some families, and even the cost of getting to another country and then doing the medical procedure there might be less expensive than staying home and doing it here. So it's worth looking into, unfortunately.
That is wild.
Yeah, it sure is wild. It sure is wild. Same thing for gender affirming surgeries. Sometimes they are cheaper to do in Thailand or Spain than they are here. And that is messed up. But here we are. If you're going the pregnancy route, ways that we can reduce the cost of medicine, because the procedure for retrieving eggs, the procedure for IVF requires a lot of like injectable medicine and stuff like that. We can look for free or low-cost medicine from different pharmacies. That's way better. I should have done that from the start. Okay, we can ask for free or lower cost medicine from different pharmacies. Here in Philly, I would start with Coordinated Care Network, which is a program with Philadelphia Fight, which is just a wonderful nonprofit doctor's office that serves a lot of LGBTQ individuals and families. And CCN Pharmacy has, it really steeply discounts my testosterone, and I'm grateful for that. We can also ask at fertility centers if there's any options for free or lower cost medicine. We can ask at hospitals. We can also look for coupons for medicine, because we live in a country where you gotta get a coupon to be able to get your medicine. So GoodRx has coupons, again, broadly for medicine generally. So pro tip if you wanna check that out. They do have coupons for hormone replacement therapy. And also manufacturer coupons. What'd you say?
It's been amazing to have
GoodRx, tons of coupons for tons of different medicines that you wouldn't know about unless you look it up. So worth spending a little time researching. You can also look for consumer savings programs. And I mentioned a few minutes earlier, it is possible sometimes to participate in a research study in exchange for a discount on your medical services or in exchange for access to newer services that may not be like fully approved yet. Places to look for that are clinicaltrials.gov, centerwatch.com, and findmecure.com. None of those are specific to fertility or to LGBTQ folks, but they are places to get started looking for opportunities. There's also, if you are looking for sperm to help with your pregnancy, a couple places you can get started are prideangel.com. The FDA has a database of sperm banks and fertility centers, and then there's also the Sperm Bank of California, which will ship. There's also some fertility centers or doctor's offices will offer what they call shared risk programs. So this is where a whole bunch of patients all go in, they each buy a bulk number of IVF or IUI cycles for a flat fee, and they get a guarantee from the fertility center, like guaranteed a baby or your money back. So kind of everybody's sharing the risk by buying a set number of cycles. So some people are gonna get pregnant on the first try, some people aren't gonna get pregnant until the 5th try, but the medical provider is like sharing the cost equally among those people. So that works out very well for the people that are getting pregnant on the 5th try or not able to get pregnant at all. A little bit of a bummer for people who get pregnant on the first try, but it is a way we can be a little community-minded if that is within our budget to do so. You have to be able to qualify for the program. Your health status and age will usually be considered because they're not going to want to take that big a risk on somebody that is a lower chance of pregnancy. And yeah, you might end up spending more or spending less depending on how it ends up working out for you. But it might be worth looking into. Some of my clients have also just appreciated having a set dollar amount that they can expect for this attempt that they are doing instead of like cycle by cycle being like, how are we going to find another 10 grand to make this happen? One located in Philly that offers a shared risk program is ShadyGroveFertility.com. I'm not particularly endorsing them. I can't speak for them as a patient or anything like that. But they are in Philly and they do offer a shared risk program that says on the website that it's LGBTQ friendly. Okay. Questions or wisdoms to offer so far before I continue? I know I'm talking fast. Cool. I am a financial planner. We're here to talk about making a plan. So I just dumped a bunch of info for you, but we're going to talk about how to actually think through planning your finances to make something happen. First thing is to set your actual goal. So what is your family building plan A, and what is your plan B? What is your ideal situation to build your family? And if that does not work out, do you have a fallback plan? Then we're going to do the best that we can to gather information about how much each of those plans costs in full, and we're going to round up every time we see these numbers, because in anything that you plan for financially, there is some sneaky fee that you didn't realize was going to cost a little bit more than your perfect plan said it would. So we're going to get as much data gathering as possible, and again, Philadelphia Family Pride's series this summer is a great resource to be learning more specifics about things like adoption and pregnancy and stuff like that. So that's a good research starting point. Then we're going to think through what resources do we have access to or might we gain access to in the near future to help us with these costs. Is your health insurance relevant here, and what are they responding as you ask them those questions? If your health insurance is not particularly helpful, can you get access to a more helpful health insurance plan? When is the next open enrollment period at your job or at your partner's job? What about looking at health insurance through just Obamacare through the marketplace? Can you decide to pay extra for the better health insurance just for a year or two and then drop back down to the less expensive health insurance once your needs are met? Do you have access related to your health insurance to a health savings account, also known as an HSA, or a flex spending account, also known as an FSA? These are special accounts that go hand in hand with your health insurance, where money goes into that account pre-tax, so you're not having to pay income tax on the money going in there, and then you can use the money in that account to pay for qualified healthcare expenses, like co-pays at doctor's offices, like paying for medication, Even buying like tampons or Advil and stuff like that counts. So it's worth looking into, can we save a little bit of money on taxes as we're saving up as much as possible for this expensive journey? I also want to think through how much time do you actually have in your day and your week to do research or to fill out grant applications or to negotiate with healthcare providers and insurance providers. Some of us have a wealth of time and we can just be on the phone and be online and be making this plan. Others of us might be more served by spending more time making more money and then just letting the costs be what they are. Depends on what your income earning potential is like and how variable that is in a short time frame. And then of course, do you have any possibility of financial support from any loved ones or from your broader community? It's worth spending a few minutes thinking about. It might be worth asking the question. It might be worth getting specific with yourself about how you want to frame that ask, and if you want to very specifically, like ask for something very specific from a specific person, or if you want to more broadly put an ask out, set a goal, kind of do a fundraiser style thing. If you're like, wow, this is very intimidating, I do have a free workshop recording available on my website called How to Talk to Loved Ones About Money. So just a little plug for a resource that I offer. And then we gotta turn to money. Finally, I'm talking about money after this whole workshop. So we're going to just make a budget, right? And for some of us, it's like, yeah, I've been budgeting forever. And for some of us are like, River, I have never made a budget work. It sucks, which is totally fair. So we're basically just gonna look at what is going on with my income and expenses right now. Is there any way to increase that income? Is there any way to decrease those expenses? And keep it realistic, friends. Now is not the time to say I'll never order takeout again. It's not realistic, it's not gonna happen. So we're gonna keep it in the realm of reality. We're gonna keep the plan flexible enough to account for the fact that life is going to be weird all the time. But if there is something that we wanna do to earn more or to spend less, I recommend making a specific plan for how to make that happen, right? So my takeout budget is never gonna go to zero, but maybe I can get it down to once a week or once every other week, and that'll be my plan. And I'm gonna actually go and buy more frozen food from the grocery store so that there is food that's readily available to me when I'm too tired to really cook. That is like more expensive than buying all the stuff from scratch, but less expensive than ordering from DoorDash yet again. And then we're gonna look, okay, if I make this much and I spend that much, how much am I able to save? And think about a timeline, right? If I wanna have $30,000 3 years from now, then I gotta find a way to save $10,000 per year. That's almost $1,000 per month. Is that realistic for me in this budget game plan? If not, I can think about increasing my timeline. I can think about ways to earn more or spend less, and I can think about looking for other help-like grants or asking chosen family or community. Whenever I help folks budget for a big savings goal like this, I do recommend that folks look at it from both perspectives. So both, I want a certain amount of money by a certain date. How much does that mean I would have to be saving per month, and is that realistic? And the flip side, how much am I able to save per month, and what does that mean for a realistic timeline for me? So whatever makes more sense to your brain and your budget situation, I want you to go with. But there's two different ways to approach the problem that are perfectly valid. Now that you have made a plan, I highly recommend setting up some kind of accountability system for yourself, because this is hard, and especially if we are doing it over a longer timeline, like a couple of years, it is way too easy to lose motivation and to forget that this is the big thing that I want to do, and to just let myself order DoorDash for the 3rd time this week. So, whatever accountability system looks like for you, I've had clients make themselves little sticker charts. They get a gold star for every week that they put the savings into the savings account. I've had clients do monthly budget dates with their partners. They sit, these clients were so cute. They make pizza together, and so it's like once a month they like put together the pizza, and then while the pizza's in the oven, they sit down and look at the spreadsheet, and then by the time the pizza's done, they're like, great, we don't have to look at the spreadsheet anymore. It's just very cute. Whatever that looks like for you, it can look like, you know, using a budget app and setting a goal in that app and having the app send you reminders. It can look like telling your best friend or your sister, like, this is what I'm gonna do by this day, like, ask me if I did it. Whatever seems helpful to you, but we wanna play a motivation game. So much of financial planning is a motivation game in kind of demoralizing centralizing systems. So whatever we can do to remember this is the thing that we're working towards, this is what's important to us, and we are making progress, even though life inevitably is going to throw some weird shit at us sometimes. And then I would be remiss if I did not point out that as you are putting savings to the side, I do recommend a high yield savings account. That is a fancy sounding term that just means a savings account that happens to have a high interest rate right now relative to other bank accounts. I like to go to nerdwallet.com to see what are the best, highest interest savings accounts right now. They update their recommendations every month. I do like to choose an account that has no minimum balance requirement. Some of these accounts will say that you have to have a minimum of $2,500 in there at all times. And I'm like, why would I not be allowed to use $2,500 of my own money? That's not how I want to be living. I am just right now in, July 2024, I'm seeing savings accounts somewhere like, 4.2% interest. So just to give you a ballpark of what you're looking for, if your savings account is earning less than 1% interest, it's time to look for another one. Thoughts, questions? Great. Okay, let's imagine we're here, we did it, we're parents now, yes. Financial planning does not stop there, of course it does not, there's so much to consider. So, a couple of things that are important to me to mention, even in a prospective parents setup workshop. Please, please, please write your estate plan. Estate plan is the fancy legal word for your will plus the other important stuff. Again, there's going to be a workshop for legal considerations, and Journal Law Group is a great LGBTQ law practice in Germantown, in Philly. The estate plan designates not just your will of who gets my stuff if I pass away, but I can also designate guardianship for my child, who will be legally responsible for my child if I'm not around. I can also designate my power of attorney and medical power of attorney, meaning the people who can make decisions for me if I'm unable to make decisions for myself. I can also designate like what I want for memorial service and stuff like that. I always tell my trans clients and queer clients, anybody who's estranged from your family of origin, please write your estate plan and name who would be able to make decisions for you if you don't want your parents to be the default. Generally, in most states, including Pennsylvania, if there is no legal document to say who will be able to make decisions for you, it defaults to a legal spouse if you have one, defaults to parents next, defaults to siblings next. And then just in case at some point we lose marriage, we want to have as many other legal documents in place as possible. Life insurance, I promised I was going to talk about it. We got to talk about it. If I take out a life insurance policy, that means if I were to pass away in a covered way, in a covered time frame, the insurance company pays out a set amount of money to whoever I have listed as my beneficiary. So it is important to me, once I have children, to take out a life insurance policy. The lowest cost way to do that would be to get a term life insurance policy, meaning that covers me for a set term, a set period of time. So I will probably be taking out a 20-year term life insurance policy. So that if I pass away anytime in the first 20 years of my child's life, there's a set amount of money that will be paid out to whoever will be raising my child for me. In a term life insurance policy, I also decide when taking out the policy what I want that death benefit to be. So it could be $250,000, $500,000, $1 million, $2 million, whatever. I've seen them as small as $100,000. So that's something to think through for yourself, or maybe talk to a financial planner about to see what kind of coverage you want to have there. I could go on about life insurance for much longer, but that's the simplest, easiest starting point. If you want to learn more about life insurance, you can also spend some time on the internet learning about the difference between permanent life insurance and term life insurance. You can also talk to an insurance broker. If you have no idea where to start with an insurance broker, the Independence Business Alliance is the LGBT Chamber of Commerce in the greater Philadelphia area. So a lot of business owners and professionals are members, and you can look at the directory online to see who is the queer or queer-friendly insurance broker. There's a couple folks in there. Other questions or thoughts about life insurance or estate planning? Yeah, Cassie, please.
Can you be like too young to write an estate plan? Or like
No, great question. More of a legal question. I don't actually know how it works if you're a minor, but as long as you're 18, you can write one, and you can update it as often as you want. I wrote mine 2 years ago. I'm 32 now, and I've updated it each year because sometimes you say you're gonna leave everything to your fiance and that doesn't work out. I'm not bitter, we're moving on. So, yeah, you can just write one, you can update it whenever. Just make sure that once you complete the legal document, you get it notarized so that it is like officially like, yes, this is the legal document now. If you want a resource to write an estate plan, the ideal scenario, and for anybody with a complex situation, like you own property in multiple states, or you have children that are not biologically related to you, polyamorous situations, stuff like that, you want to work with an estate planning attorney, and I would refer you to Journer Law Group as your starting point. If your situation is very simple, there's no dependence on you, you don't really own property, straightforward, you can just go to freewill.com. Yes, they did get the URL freewill.com. I thought that was awesome. And it'll just ask you questions and then generate the document, and then you just make sure to take it to a notary to stamp it and be like, yes, this is River Nice, and this is their legal document now. Disability insurance. Not accessible to everyone, but also important to have. So I have a disability insurance policy. That means that I pay a premium every month, or my employer would pay it if I had a job. But unfortunately I'm self-employed, so I pay for it myself. The disability insurance says that if I become unable to work due to a covered illness or disability, it will replace part of my income for me. So it's not actually about disability, it's about loss of ability to earn income. There are sometimes separate short-term disability and long-term disability policies. If you get access to this through an employer, that is most often the case. You'll have a separate policy for short-term and long-term. If you buy it for yourself, oftentimes we just buy the long-term because that's the more important one, and then we try to set aside enough emergency savings to cover a short-term, meaning up to 3 months disability and inability to work. Whenever we have little ones, dependent on our ability to bring income into the household and pay for the things they need, this is important to have. It's just really expensive, so it's not accessible to everyone, and that's just the reality in America. Questions or thoughts about disability insurance? Cool. For life and disability insurance, again, you can talk to an insurance broker. I keep emphasizing broker, meaning somebody who will compare multiple different insurance companies to help you get the lowest cost option for your specific health situation. But if you have no idea where to start, or you just want to get a sense of what a cost might be, you can go to policygenius.com and just fill out their form to get a quote. They will email and call you a lot, so maybe use the burner email on that. For those of us who want to be saving and investing money for our children's future and who have the financial means to do so, there are a couple of specific investment accounts that are worth learning about. So a 529 plan is an investment account that is specifically supposed to be used for education costs. So most people use it to save for college. You can also use it to pay for like a private high school situation or something like that. 529 plans are very weird investment accounts. They have to be sponsored by a state or educational institution, so you can't just open it at Vanguard or whatever. You have to find like Pennsylvania's 529 plan and then enroll there. They have specific rules that you want to make sure you read through and understand. You want to make careful decisions about what exactly you are investing in, but they're going to have a limited list of like mutual funds and ETFs that you can choose to invest in. 529 plan, when you open it and set it up, you have to list one specific person to be the beneficiary of who will be using that money. The plan can be changed from one person as the beneficiary to another person as the beneficiary, but that person has to be like a sibling, a first cousin, a child, or a parent, I think. You can't just transfer it to anybody you want. They have to have a relation. Again, super weird. No other investment accounts do this, but here we are. Cool new rule from the government is that 529 plans now, if they are unused for college, can be rolled into use for retirement. So if your kid ends up getting a scholarship or not going to college, you can roll it into a retirement account for them, which is not the case a year ago. So that's nice to have. Let's go. Speaking of retirement accounts, a Roth IRA, IRA stands for Individual Retirement Account. That is an investment account that anybody can open to save for retirement. There are restrictions on who is allowed to put money in per year, meaning if your income is too high, you're not allowed to put money into the Roth IRA anymore. You have to use a different account because Roth IRAs are real flexible and real nice and give us lots of tax breaks. So they're not going to let high income people use them. Federal government changes like exactly what that number is all the time, so I just have to Google it each time. What's the income limit on a Roth IRA? Either, joint income if married, filing jointly, or single income if that's the situation. A Roth IRA can be opened in anybody's name, including a minor's name, but the money that goes in has to be reported as earned income. So, I said that backwards. If I'm going to put money into a Roth IRA in my name, it has to be money that I have already reported as earned income in that calendar year. If I made no income this year, then I can't put money into the Roth IRA. The IRS is going to be like, whoa, you're not supposed to do that. So if my 6-year-old has a Roth IRA, they would have to earn the money to put it in there, and that's sketchy. But once my kid's like 14, 15, they could have a part-time job and all of the money goes into the Roth IRA, and then I pay them an allowance because they're working and they want money right now. And then a brokerage account is just your regular old investment account, gives us no tax breaks, but then has no restrictions on how you use it. I didn't get into all of what the tax breaks are on the Roth IRA. I can do that if anybody's interested. I just feel like I'm throwing a lot at you. So, questions, thoughts so far? Cool.
Just a question. Can you explain the difference between like a traditional and a Roth IRA?
I would love to. Classic question. So, traditional IRA or Roth IRA, traditional 401k or Roth 401k. The difference between the two is about when do you get the break on your income taxes. So the traditional IRA and traditional 401k, when money goes into that account, that amount of money that goes in reduces your taxable income for that calendar year. So as a self-employed person, I can use a traditional IRA. If I put $7,000 in there this year, then the amount of income for 2024 that I am paying income taxes on is reduced by the $7,000 that went in there. So I'm getting that income tax break now. The money goes in, gets invested, my investments become worth more money over time. Eventually in retirement, I take out my first year's salary to live on for that first year of retirement, and that is when I have to pay income tax on the amount that I withdraw. So I'm deferring my income tax until later, in the hopes that I'm in a lower tax bracket later, is like the general conventional wisdom there. So that would make sense for, like my brother is a computer engineer. So he's in his late 20s, he's making a shit ton of money. He's like, great, I'm going to take the tax break now because I have that high income tax bracket. Later in retirement, he will be drawing out less per year because it's just whatever he needs to live on instead of the super high salary that he's used to. So he would rather pay the income taxes then. With me so far? Cool. Roth flips it. Roth says, I'm going to put the money in now and I'm going to get the income taxes over with. So I can have a Roth IRA, I put my $7,000 in, I don't reduce my income taxes, I still have to pay on the full amount that I earned this year. Money gets invested, becomes worth more over time. First year of retirement, I cash out that first year's money to live on, and I don't have to pay income taxes on that withdrawal at that time. So in this situation, I am expecting that I will be in a higher income tax bracket later than I am now, which could be because my earnings are different and my personal income tax bracket is different. It could also be because the US has changed its tax structure and taxes are higher because we're closer to socialism maybe. And so then it might have been nice if I had gotten the income tax over with earlier in life. That means that the other benefit to the Roth, now I'm gonna roll, you can't stop me. The other benefit to Roth is because it is an IRA, individual retirement account not tied to an employer like a 401k is, and because it's a Roth, meaning the government has already gotten their tax money from me, it is the only tax advantage retirement account that I can take money out earlier than age 59 and a half. I am only allowed to take out up to the amount that I have put in, meaning the investment growth of what it grew in the stock market, that I'm not supposed to take out early. But I can withdraw my own contributions earlier than age 59 and a half with no penalty, whereas all of the other retirement accounts, if I take money out early, I get hit with a 10% penalty. Because the government's like, whoa, that's supposed to be for retirement. You're being irresponsible. Which is very patronizing and rude, but here we are. Make sense? Yes. Great question. Thanks for letting me do my spiel. Other questions or thoughts here?
One question.
Oh, please.
You go ahead.
I was just curious in terms of the advantages of sort of rolling over IRAs, Roth IRAs, traditional IRAs. But in particular, like it's one thing from like one employer to the next employer, rolling over 401k from one to the next, or something like that, right? But I'm wondering with like can you roll over like a Roth IRA into a traditional IRA, and is that like advantageous at any point if your sort of financial circumstances change?
Great question. So the question is, once money is in a like traditional IRA, can I move it to a Roth IRA, vice versa? Same thing with 401ks. The simplest thing is to keep traditional money traditional and Roth money Roth, right? Whatever tax status it's in, you leave it that way. There is no way to turn Roth money into traditional, right? The government's not going to give you the tax money back.
Right.
You can turn traditional into Roth. It's called a Roth conversion. When very high income people use it to subvert the rule that they're not allowed to put money into the Roth, it's called a backdoor Roth. If you were going to do that, if I have money in a traditional IRA that I want to turn into a Roth, the way to turn it into the Roth is to pay the taxes on it, right? Because that's the difference, is that Roth, they've already gotten the taxes. So that makes sense in very specific situations. If I have a year where my income is very low because I'm taking a sabbatical, because I'm taking time off to be with my child, because it's my first year of retirement, something like that, then it might be that I'm in a low enough income tax bracket that I may as well convert this and pay taxes on just whatever that little chunk of money is. But the rest of the time, if I'm making my usual salary, it generally doesn't make financial sense to do the conversion. Make sense? Absolutely.
So from a
Okay.
parenting standpoint,
Please.
which makes more sense, a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA?
From a parenting standpoint, traditional or Roth IRA, I generally, all other things being equal, for kids, for ourselves, whatever, I like that the Roth IRA has the flexibility of being able to withdraw some of the money before age 59 and a half, that the traditional IRA does not let you do. For that specific reason, I think the Roth IRA makes a lot of sense. We never know what life's going to throw at us. We also don't know what the climate's going to do to the economy and our ability to earn a living over the next 30, 40 years. So I like the flexibility of the Roth when you are within the requirements of being allowed to contribute to it. Make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. But again, all retirement accounts, it has to already be earned income that you reported to the IRS in order to be allowed to go into the retirement accounts. Whereas 529s and brokerage accounts, they don't care. That money can come from grandma or anybody. Okay. Quick plug for my whole deal. I run a program called Take Control of Your Money. It's my favorite thing that I do. Super grateful to get to live a self-employed life of my dreams. If you like how I teach, and it's not always this fast, I'm just in a mood today. But if you like how I explain things and you're like, wow, I need to learn more about money, I need to feel more confident with my personal finances, I wish that I could do my own financial planning and not have to be dependent on financial professionals. And you can afford to pay for a thing. If you can't, don't pay me, it's understandable. This is a 12-week group program that I designed 3 years ago. I've had 200 people through the program since then. It's very fun, it's very exciting. I teach people how to do their own financial planning, so that's like budgeting, financial emergency preparedness, insurance, credit scores, how to buy a house, like literally what is the stock market, what are all of these investment accounts, how do I make decisions, how do I avoid investing in things like weapons manufacturing and fossil fuels, how do I talk to loved ones about money, what was I taught about money as a child and is that serving me now? That is the program that I teach in small group settings virtually on Zoom. I'm running some cohorts right now. I'll run them again in October. I typically do it 3 times a year. I am happy to do a free half-hour call with anybody who's interested so that we can make sure that it is actually the right fit for you and is worth your time, money, and attention. If anybody's interested, reach out to me. If you're watching the recording, there will be a link somewhere, I promise. Okay, last thing. If you received value from me today, please send some money to help Ahmed's family escape Rafa. This workshop could have cost anywhere between $5 and $50, and thank you Philadelphia Family Pride for making it free to all. But if you could have sent that money to this workshop, you can send that money to help a family escape Rafa because they need it. Here is the QR code to the GoFundMe. There will also be a link on my website. Thank you.